back in the responsive web design section doing CSS Flexbox. If you're new to Flexbox, I've used it a little bit. What it basically is a different way for you to organize and make your website responsive. If you're used to Bootstrap and using a column grid system, this is kind of a different way of doing that. That's how I would explain it. But there's a lot more to it. Let's just jump in and see what Free Code Camp's got in store for us. So you'll see, right, we start off with these two boxes here. We have box 1 and box 2, and what we want to do is we want to apply the CSS property flex on it, which allows you to use other flex properties to build a responsive page. Alright, so let's see here. So we're going to use flex, or excuse me, display flex. So if you're not familiar with this, don't sweat it. We're both gonna get better. I've actually used libraries that have kind of implemented what it looks like we're gonna implement now. Angular Material has a great library that does that. Oh, I'm sorry. Whoopsies. So we're actually applying the flex to the box container here. That's my fault there. I was wondering why it didn't change. But you'll see now, we want it to essentially fit them both in there. We're kind of, the way that we're organizing our code is that if it can fit, flex it together, right? So if we were to change the width to this to 100%, or let's try 75%, and we were to run it, you'll see that it flexes them together. One takes over more than the other, and the reason that it doesn't just go is because it's not like a block element. We're not treating it as a block element, but it just overrode that. So anyhow, let's go ahead and run this, see what we're working with. We got a lot of things. Oh, here's our boy Quincy, doing a shout out to his Twitter. What we're going to be doing here is adding flex to all the following items. Set up here. So we're going to add flex, display flex to all of these, basically, which is header. And to save ourselves some time, let's go ahead and copy pasta this. So there's header, then we're going to add it to profile name. Let's see, profile name. All right. We're then going to add it to the follow button. We are also going to add it to the H3, H4, the footer. Where's the H4? Oh, it's already one and the same. And stats. Cool. Let's run this one more time. And you'll see now that these are all kind of getting meshed together, right? We're flexing them all in. If it can fit, it will fit. And the only things that's stopping it are block elements and things like that. And you know, you'll see how it works a little bit cleaner than. All right, so there's flex direction. Use the flex direction property to make a row. So similar to Bootstrap, where you have column and grid, you then can create a where you would have rows and I said column and grid, rows and columns. You can add a direction to treat like a row or column. So so far we've been flexing as a row, which is why we haven't had to set the property. But let's say we wanted to flex things vertically, we would do something different. So here we want to add the flex dash direction, and the default, by the way, is a row, and we want to give it the value of row dash reverse. All right, so this is row dash reverse, and let's see what happens when we run that. Oh, actually, let's take this out real quick before we do anything else, because I want to see the original. And so it looks like our box 1 here is the blue, and the box 2 is the red. So with the flex direction, it's actually going to swap the spots, which is interesting and kind of cool. So the header and the footer in the tweet embed example, as we have here, have child items that should be arranged as rows using flex direction. Add the CSS property flex direction to both the header and the footer. So you have our header, and set the value to row. So let's go ahead and set flex dash direction. And what we want to do is basically create rows. Imagine that each one, it'd be better if we had some background color of this to kind of really hammer it down, but flex direction, and we're going to set that to row, and then we're also going to set flex direction of the footer to row. So this is a row, and then this top part is a row, as it already kind of looks, but we're kind of hammering it in a little bit. We'll add the flex dash direction row. Now nothing changed, but this is also going to help it be more in the next couple sections. I'm imagining will help it show you how it responds differently based off these flex directions that we're setting. So use the flex direction to make columns. So far we've been talking about just rows. Now we want to talk about columns. Now add the CS property box container and give it a value of column. So remember we're back on our basic example here where they're just side by side getting kind of jammed in. And what we want to do now is we want to make it a column so they stack on each other. Because remember, the default's row. But if we want them to stack like this, we can do that also. So we're back to our Twitter example now, where... God, does he really have 84,000 likes? I bet it's gone up. I don't even think this is an API call. I think this is hard-coded. The tweet embed header and footer used the flex direction property earlier with a row value. Similarly, the items and profile name should work well as a stack column. All right. So we're going to add the flex direction to the header's profile name class, which is right here. And we want to make it a column. Now, remember, right now it was a row, so what happens when we make it a column? Let's see that one more time. So I'm going to take it out of here and I'm going to show you. So that, I think it's very crucial to see what's wrapping this in the profile name section. So you'll see right here, we have this, where's our profile name? So our div class right here, profile name, what's happening is we want to have this treated as a column because we want it directly under the name Quincy Larson. So for this section right here, we're going to set the flex duration to column so that normally an H3 and H4 would go left to right because there'd be different block elements or however it goes. But what we want is for it to go underneath. And so we're going to set the flex direction to be a column. That's what's going on here. Alright, so in this example, we now have a third color. So notice the flex items within a flex container do not fill all the space in the container. It's common to want to tell the CSS how to align and space out the flex items in a certain way. Fortunately, we have justify content property that has several options to do this. But there's some important concepts to understand. So remember that it's side by side, left to right, top to bottom. Flex items main axis, or several options on how to space flex lines. Justify content center, flex start, flex end. So flex start aligns items to the start of the flex container, which is the left, I guess, usually. For a column, this pushes the items to the top. So if it's a column, the flex.start is top, starts top to bottom. A row is left to right. Flex end is the reverse. Space between aligns item to the center of the main axis. Alright, space around, similar, but the first and last items are not locked to the edge of the container. Alright, this is going to be something that I feel like I get these flex end, flex start, and the space between, space around, and space between. I feel like to fully get these two, like these two are pretty straightforward. We're probably going to have to play around with it a little bit. Let's see what's going on right now. So an example helps show this property in action. Exactly what I just said. Alright. Oops, excuse me. adding the CSS property, box container element, or the CSS justify content. So we're going to add this justify dash content. And again, notice that we have this flex property in here as well, the display flex. Give it a value of center. Bonus, try the other options for the justify content property to see their differences. So let's see what happens. Alright, so again, let's go and look down at what we have here. So we have a background color that's going on. And what we want is to take our two containers and flex them to the center. That's what we want to do. We want to justify the content so that they're centered. That these block elements are centered here. Cool. So the latest challenge showed an example of justify content property. And it looks like we're back on the tweet embed. For the tweet, this property can be applied to align the items to the profile name element. Now remember down here, we have the profile name class, which is Quincy Larson with the OASA. Add the CSS property and set the value to any of the options from the last challenge. I'm forgetting what it was. Flex. I actually want it to be flex, the left one, which was flex start, because this is a row. The flex start would be to the left. So we're going to go ahead and do justify dash content. Oops. Flex dash start, right? And let's run that and see. And I don't think anything's going to change because it's already justified to the left. But if it wasn't, and just to see what it looks like, we can do flex, was it flex end? And it should go ahead and swap it to the right. Why doesn't it look like it did shit? Oh, because this is a column. So if this was a row, it would have done that, but it's not going to go anywhere this way. So the only one that's actually going to look like anything happened is center, which it's going to look bad. Oh, I take it back. Okay, so I'm understanding this more. I'm thinking that it's adjusting off this. This is actually adjusting based off of its overall container. So you'll see here is it centered it amongst this row here. Ah, I get it now. Cool. I was thinking it was going to adjust the container, but it was actually adjusting its parent element. An example helps show the CS property in action. All right, so align items is similar. So I've used align items before, and I thought this was kind of similar to justify content. Justify content is to flex items along the main axis. For rows, the main axis is a horizontal line, and then the vertical line for columns. CS offers the align items property. Okay, so some of these flex values are also available for line items. Flex start, flex end, center, stretch, which wasn't in the justify content. So stretch stretches the items to fill the flex container. All right, and then baseline aligns items to their baselines. Baseline is a text concept. Think of it as the line of the letters that it sits on. I'm not quite sure what this means, but hopefully we get to use it. So an example that shows this property in action, add the CSS property align items to the box container. All right, let's see what's going on here. Oh, I don't remember if I ran this yet, so let's go ahead and run this. All right, so we have hello and goodbye, and then we're gonna have align dash items. And what we want to do is we want to let's actually play around with this. So let's see what baseline does. I think it's important to kind of, when you have questions as to what baseline is supposed to do, and of course make sure you spell things correctly. Spelling, just like math, is hard. And you'll see that these actually align on the same text level, which is cool. I like that. And okay, so it is exactly what it sounds like. We want to put it on the same line. And we'll go ahead and do center, and it'll drop down all the same. So it actually aligned this section to the center of the page versus the container. So we're going to go on to the more advanced example now, where we're going to use the display line items property in the tweet embed. So add the CSS property align items to the headers follow.btn. All right. So we're going to add this class here, and we want to set the value to center. And just for fun, we're going to run it after each time. That adjusted. We're going to adjust the H3 and the H4. So I'm not quite sure why the background went away. So let's actually look at the CSS. We have this follow BTN. I see. So in our header, we wanted to flex to the center, which is where that follow button is. And so we closed down, which is why we lost that background. We didn't lose it, but the sort of empty space, when we have 0 margin and 0 padding on it, we only got the 5 pixels here for the actual button, which is why it doesn't go straight to it. So if we actually commented this out for whatever reason, you would see that it lost even more padding. Let's go ahead and comment that back in. Nice. Use the flex wrap property to wrap a row or column. So flex wrap is cool because say you know that you want something when it hits the edge, after there's like 3 items in your list, you want it to wrap down below. And so you can do that with flex wrap. So no wrap is the default setting, meaning it's not going to drop down below. So wrap, it means it will wrap left to right. So if it goes off the edge, it will then go down to the left side and then keep stacking until it hits the end again, and then go down again. And then wrap reverses right to left. All right, so in our box container again, we want to go ahead and set flex-wrap to, what do we want to get? To just wrap. Now keep in mind that the width of each one of these boxes is 25%. So what should happen right now is each one of these boxes to the yellow should take up this first one, and the green and the black will drop down below right here and right here. So let's go ahead and run that, and you'll see that's how it wrapped it down to the bottom. And as we were talking about before, if we want to do wrap reverse, it would do that as well. Now that's really helpful because if you set up like you could set up a cool like I've done it before where I've set up a picture where it goes 4 squares across, and then we want it to kind of wrap down and always be looking a certain way. Flex.wrap is really helpful for that. All right, so use the flex shrink property to shrink items. Oh, I haven't used a flex shrink before. So far all the properties apply to the flex container, the parent of the flex items. However, there are several useful properties for the flex items. The first is flex shrink. Flex shrink takes property numbers as values. The higher the number, the more it will shrink compared to the other items. For example, if one item has a flex shrink value of 1 and the other has flex shrink value of 3, the one with the value will shrink 3 times as much. Okay. That's interesting. So, say we have more important... We've been dealing with containers so far. The only thing we've really done is kind of handle how items within our flex container interact. And now we're going to start messing with properties on the children, or the items that are nested within our parent element or the container. And by the sounds of this, flex shrink is as things get smaller and smaller, we want certain parts of these to shrink a little bit more than the others. And in here, we're going to, in box 1, assign a flex shrink property of value of 2. Alright, so we're going to have, in box 2, we're going to flex-shrink. And by default, it looks like the flex shrink property, the reason we don't have one here is by default it is set to 1. Meaning that there's not going to be any sort of abnormal changes. So when we set that and we run it, you'll see that one takes up more space than the other. And this is only if there's not enough space, right? So in box 1, it has 100% width. And in box 2, it has much less. So that's why that's going on there. Okay, cool. Now if it was 50 and 50, they'd take up the same amount of space. And so it looks like flex grow is the opposite of that. Controls the size of the items in the parent container. So by default, flex grow has 1. And then the larger the number, the more it grows. So the box 1 element should have the flex grow property set to 1. All right. Or actually, it looks like there's not a default value for this one. So we're going to set flex-grow to 1. And then we're going to set, for box 2, have the growth of it to be twice as large. Doesn't look like it actually does anything in this instance, but maybe it will in a better example. Use the flex basis property to set the initial size of an item. All right. The previous example included flex basis help demonstrate how the flex grow property works. The flex basis property specifies initial size. The units used by flex basis property are the same as the other size properties. So you can use pixels and percentages, etc. The value auto sizes items based on content. Set the initial size of the box settings. Use flex basis. Our boxes right now, the reason that even though we have background colors and heights is because they have no width. And so we're going to set the width, instead of setting it to auto or something like that, what we're going to do is we're going to set a flex basis to 10em. Let's go ahead and run that real quick. And that's going to set the initial width of the box. And then we're going to do the same thing of box number 2 here, except our flex-basis is going to have a 20em here, which will take over as well. Cool. All right, now we're on use the flex shorthand property, another one I'm unfamiliar with. So add the CSS property flex to both box 1 and box 2. All right. So remember, we're going to make these so that they have flex. Because by default they don't have them, right? So let's go. Oh, actually, excuse me. Give box 1 the values. Let's see what it's saying. Okay. So remember how you can set padding to the whole thing of 5 and it'll go to every area, or you could do 5. It goes top, right, bottom, left, or clockwise. So 5 to the top padding, 10 to the right padding, 5 to the bottom padding, and then 10 to the left padding, all that sort of stuff. So you can do something similar in here. Instead of having to define a bunch of placeholders, what we can do is we can set a flex property in our child, and we'll set 2. It goes, what order does it go? Give values. So flex grows 2. So the first one goes grow, the second one is shrink, and the third one is basis. So we're gonna set box 1 to grow by 2, shrink by 2, and set an initial size of 150 pixels. And then we're gonna go to box 2, and we're gonna set the flex here for all 3 properties, and in the 1, and we're gonna set it to start grow by 1, shrink by 1, and start by at 150 pixels. That's what we're doing right here. Nice. So the order property is going to allow us to state in what order should they appear in our flex container. So in the current order, if I understand what it's saying, is it's going to actually reorganize our HTML to a degree. So we have box 1, and we're going to set the order of that equal to 2, excuse me, and that's going to move the box to the right, and because I'm guessing it goes left to right unless otherwise specified, and order 1 is going to move to the left, so the boxes should swap. Very nice. So the final property is align self. This property allows you to adjust each item's alignment individually instead of setting them all at once. All right. So the reason you use align self is because float, clear, and vertical align do not work on flex items. I wish I knew this. I was trying to vertical align things for about an hour the other day. But this is great. This is why I like free code camera. It teaches you some new stuff all the time. Align self accepts the same values as align items and will not override any value by align items. Add the CSS property align self to box 1. All right. So we are going to say align dash self. And we're going to set that equal to what does it want? Center. And then we are going to set this one to flex dash n. When we run it, one should be centered and one should be to the end. Now remember, flex dash n, down and over and center and all that. Whew! That was a lot of good stuff, man. So that was the what section was that? The Flexbox section. I can't wait to start using this. One thing to note is, do not fall into the habit of just using like Bootstrap or libraries. It's something I've done in the past and I've suffered for it. After taking this, make an active effort that when you're doing these projects here, applied web design projects, to actually jump in and get your hands dirty and write some code and go to that next sort of fun level. But as always, guys, thank you for watching. Don't forget to join our Facebook group, Code Tech and Caffeine, and support me at patreon.com/codingtutorials360. I'll see you in the next video when it looks like we'll be getting started with some applied web design projects, starting with the tribute page. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Hey guys, thanks for watching the video. If you're interested in coding bootcamp, check out devmountain.com, where housing is included in your price of tuition. And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and support me on Patreon. I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.